Hello and welcome to today's Facebook LinkedIn Q&A with Lindsey Roberts, who is our resident life coach, and we're going to be talking all today about burnout. We've got loads of questions, so thank you to everybody that has submitted their questions. If you've got questions as we're talking to Lindsay, please pop them in the comments, because today we're going to be talking about burnout and how you can prevent burnout. Is it preventable, particularly if you are, super busy, if you've got lots of commitments at home and you've got a really busy job? It's very, very hard not to sometimes feel burnt out. So we're going to be talking all about the warning signs of burnout and how you can prevent it. So thank you so much, Lindsay, for joining us for this Q&A today. If people have got burning questions about burnout, please pop them in the comments and we'll try and get them answered. First question. What are the warning signs of burnout and how can I recognize them early on?
Okay. Going straight in with a hard one straight away. That's
Sorry.
No, it's all good. So I think just to add in as well, when you said in the intro, like, can it be managed? Can you do something about it? I think it is recognizing that, yes, you can absolutely do something about it. There are elements that are within your control. In fact, it was actually defined by the World Health Organization recently. It's been recognized by them, which is a massive step forward. And it's defined as a syndrome resulting in chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. So with that statement in itself, it's suggesting that there are steps you can take to manage it. Some of the things that you kind of should look out for is if you are feeling tired and drained like all the time, not just like, you get into Friday and you can feel the slog of like getting to the weekend, but if it's kind of constantly feeling tired or drained and you're sleeping enough and you're still feeling tired, if you feel really trapped or you feel defeated, you feel quite detached from the work that you're doing. One thing that comes up for a lot of people is not being able to feel creative. And not just creativity in the sense of like you don't have to pick up a paintbrush, but just generally feeling that creative interest to go and do something different. A lot of self-doubt and massively procrastinating, but like kind of more than, I think we're all guilty of procrastinating at some point. But it's kind of like to the extent where you're not getting anything done all day, even though you're at your desk and you feel like you should be doing stuff, but there's just nothing that seems to be happening. And just pure exhaustion. But I think it's about realizing these before it gets to that stage. So I think if you've recognized the signs of burnout in yourself now, you're like, oh God, it's trying to kind of recognize that a little bit beforehand as well. So if you do feel like you are having, if you're kind of starting to feel tired all the time, like just checking in with yourself, am I doing too much? Am I burning the candle at both ends? Are there areas where I can kind of take a step back just to protect my energy? And just trying to be aware of it before you get to the burnout stage, because it's a lot harder it's not impossible, but it's a lot harder to do the work to pull yourself back from burnout. Whereas if you're noticing the signs of you being kind of starting to feel stressed and quite overwhelmed, try and tackle it then before it gets to kind of the burnout stage.
That's really good advice. I can always tell when because I get a headache. I just feel it there. And, I had one yesterday and then basically I actually didn't do so much work yesterday because I had this headache, and now actually today I feel so much better. I think it's, if you've got an often it's physical, it can be, I suppose it can be bad, but if you've got a little early warning sign, then it's always good to listen to it.
Absolutely. Your body's doing that for a reason. It's giving you that sign for a reason, and it's so easy to just kind of power through and just keep going, and this is really important for work, but unless we're like on the front line and either fighting in a war or as a doctor or a nurse, like we're not doing anything that is going to be saving lives. Like we just need to give ourselves a bit of perspective. And actually, would it be better if I switched off my laptop an hour earlier today, if that's possible, and took a little bit of downtime and picked up those emails tomorrow? Like, is anybody going to die if I don't send this email tonight? Probably not. But we get caught up in that bubble of when everybody else around you is running around doing lots of work all the time and being really busy, you feel like you've got to keep up with those people running on that treadmill. But it's actually been like, actually, I'm okay being on this treadmill over here, walking at a normal pace, rather than feeling like I have to run a million miles an hour over there.
Okay. So if you've got a really busy life and, you've got maybe, we've all got responsibilities, but, if you feel that you're quite overwhelmed, I guess, with your work, you may be working full time, you may be parenting, or maybe looking after elderly relatives or whatever. How do you go about prioritizing which things are the most important to stop you from feeling overwhelmed?
That's a really tough one. And I can't say it's the same for everybody because we all have different, like you said, caring responsibilities. I don't have any children and I live with my boyfriend, so it'll be a very different experience to somebody who has 3 kids, works full time and has a dog and a hamster. I don't know why the dog and the hamster were relevant, but it's a different. But I think what we all need to do, irrespective of our situation, is find a way to put ourselves first, even if it is for 5 to 10 minutes a day of doing something for yourself before you help other people. And it's recognizing that if you continue in the way that you're going of putting everybody else first, looking after their needs before you look after your own, you're not going to be in a position to help anybody because you're going to be over there crying on the floor, like just absolutely physically and mentally exhausted. So it's about just adding in those little bits just for you, slowly but surely. Like, if I turn around and was like, right, Liz, you need to take an hour out of your day every day. You need to go and like do some yoga and be calm. You'd be like, I haven't got time for that. Like, I've literally got so much to do. So it's about finding those little snippets of time where you can have that time for yourself, just to give yourself those pockets of calm, whatever that looks like for you, just to give yourself a sense of you and your purpose back, rather than kind of giving it to everybody else.
Okay.
But it is really important to kind of, if you're feeling like that you're really stressed and you've got a lot on and you don't know how to prioritize, there's an exercise, there's a book that's really good. I think I mentioned this in the last session as well. It's very good. And it's talking about the circles of concern from a guy called Stephen Covey. I will get his name right one day. And he talks about a lot of the things that occupy our mind are things that we cannot control. And we spend so much time worrying and stressing and getting frustrated about things that aren't within our control. Instead of actually stopping and thinking, actually, in this situation, what elements can I control? What am I responsible for? What can I do something about here? And focusing on those areas rather than focusing on the stuff over here that actually I've got no influence over. So it's really kind of shifting that focus to being like, right, in this situation, what can I control? Who can help me? And then going from there.
Okay. How can I create a supportive and positive work environment for myself and my colleagues?
Oh, that is a good question. Without speaking to the person to get a little bit more clarity, I think it would be good to get a coach in to come and talk to your organisation.
Absolutely.
Give me a call. All my details are on the Invest in Women website. But no, seriously, I think it is about, in terms of like creating a better environment, it's being able to find a way to be kind of honest and open with each other, and to make sure that there's respect there for each other as well. But it's also remembering, and I think this is one thing that really helped me when I was in corporate, remembering that everybody has different values. So everybody that comes to work has different values and beliefs to you. And it's understanding that they will do their work and they will approach different things in accordance with their values. So there is going to be some frustration and there is going to be some discomfort because not everybody will act in the same way that you would react and act about things. So it's having that space and respect that other people are going to have different ways of approaching things and do things in a different way.
Okay.
In terms of thinking around, if you're wanting to create more kind of, one of the things that we find a lot when there's kind of unhappiness in a team or workplace is that communication isn't great. So it's about finding ways to improve that communication, and also finding ways to manage expectations better. I think a lot of the time we expect other people to read our minds. I'm like, well, obviously I'm not going to do that today because I've got this massive project on. And they're like, I don't care. I've no clue what that project is. So it's really making sure that you're managing people's expectations. Everybody that comes to you with a job for you to do at your desk will think that it's urgent because it's come from them and what they're doing is really important. But that doesn't mean that you have to make it urgent for you. It could be really urgent for them, but in the grand scheme of things you have to do, it doesn't mean you have to drop everything and do that for them straight away. And I think there is that fear of, it's really urgent, so I need to do this straight away. But managing expectations and talking it through, asking some clarifying questions about what it is that's really important about this job that needs to happen, can really just have an open conversation about the job at hand, rather than feeling loads of pressure and just saying, look, I need it for tomorrow or else.
That's good. Yeah. I was going to say, I think that's answered as well the next question, which was how to improve my communication skills to reduce misunderstandings and conflicts with others, which obviously is where the boundaries then can bleed, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing to think about is, so I class myself as a recovering people pleaser. I love to say yes to people. I love to help people. It was at a detriment to my own health at one stage that I was just giving so much to other people that I wasn't looking after myself. And I would say yes to everything that came across my desk. Yep, I can do that, no problem. Yep, I can absolutely do that. Yep, happy to help. I can do it. I'll get it done. And it's once you realise that you don't have to say yes as soon as something comes to you, that's going to give you a bit of breathing space and be able to help you set those boundaries better. So if you don't feel like you're able to say no straight away to something, also because you want to be nice and help people, but saying to somebody, that should be fine, but can I come back to you and confirm either way tomorrow? And then by doing that, it gives you a little bit of time and space to actually look and think, hang on a minute, can I actually squeeze this in? And if I do this work, what am I then saying no to? Because there's going to be an impact of you saying yes to this piece of work. And that impact a lot of the time is us staying late until 10 p.m. or taking the laptop home or working early in the morning because we've overcommitted to ourselves and to the people that we work with of the things that we can actually get done. Okay. We actually, the rule, I think the saying goes that we overestimate what we can do in a day and we underestimate what we can do in a year.
I like that.
So we look at that list and we think, oh, I can definitely get all that done today, no problem. But we don't account for anything else happening in that day. So then we feel pressured to kind of like, we need to stay on and get all the stuff done that we've set ourselves. A lot of the stuff is like arbitrary deadlines that aren't really real deadlines. So yeah, something to bear in mind as well when you're making that to-do list.
Cool. All right. And what are some common misconceptions about burnout?
I think that there's something wrong with you. Like there's something wrong with your mental health. I think is a misconception, and that you are weak at your job. You can't do your job. You're not capable. And there is still a taboo around it, in the same way that there is a lot around talking about mental health. Now, I know that is getting better in a lot of organisations and people are more willing to talk about their experiences, but there is some kind of guilt and shame that why are you burnt out when others aren't? And what does that say about what you're doing at work? The only thing it says is that you've done too much work. There's too much on your plate, and that isn't necessarily your fault if you've not been able to communicate properly with your team and with your manager. And I think a lot of the time there's the stigma around admitting to your manager and your boss that you need help. That is something that is shown as a sign of weakness, but actually I see it as a strength, because you recognize that this isn't what you want to do. This isn't how you want to work. You don't want to work. You want to come to work and enjoy it. Like, that is the dream, right? It's not about going to work and dreading every minute that you're there and not being able to focus and not being able to deliver the best that you can. And I think we kind of forget sometimes that our managers are there to help manage, and they should be able to be there to help manage our priorities if we can't prioritise things. Sometimes I would go to a manager and say, look, I've got these 2 things that have dropped on my desk. They're both urgent. Which do you think I should be prioritising here? And put the onus back on them, because they are there to help you manage the team. They're there to manage the team and manage the output of that team. So then how can they help you manage your work more effectively?
Okay. Brilliant. And then another question: how do you separate work and worth as a high-performing person? This person could be me. It wasn't me, but they struggle to be. Who struggles not to be on? She's a disclaimer. She's great at relaxing when it's scheduled, but she struggles with quiet times in her business.
Okay. It is hard work to try and detach, especially if that's something that you've recognized as maybe a belief that you've had in the past, or something that you might have grown up with that connects your belief, the belief of you working hard means that you are a better person, or you having a successful business means that you're a better person. It's made even more difficult if you run your own business like this person seems to do. So you feel like it's directly connected with the fact that if I don't sell these products, it just shows that people hate me. So it's kind of really it is hard to try and detach. One thing that I do is I'm telling all my secrets now. Sometimes I pretend that it's not my business, so if I was doing this for another person, I would have no problem. I would just be looking at the data and focusing on the data and looking at the evidence, rather than trying to tie it to what I'm doing. One thing I'd recommend is looking at your values to understand what it is that you value outside of work, and how can you get more from your values outside of work than you are within work. So it seems from what this person said that there is a lot of focus on work and not necessarily much focus outside of work. So it's really thinking about, what do you look like? Without, if you take work away, what else is there that makes up this person? Because you are a whole person.
Yeah. So
if
you have hobbies or whatever.
Yeah. So think about yourself holistically. And I think there is a lot of danger, and I've done this in my kind of past career. I put all my eggs in one basket, and I was very much career. And then when that got stripped out from underneath me, I was like, what the hell do I do now? Like, where do I stand? Because I tied so much of my identity with my career, I just felt lost. And I think it's really taking the time to find things outside of work that light you up, that don't involve anything to do with work. And then if you have more of that outside work stuff, I think there'll be less value put on the fact that you're having that connection of self-worth and work. And I think that will detach a little bit. But definitely spend some time working on your values.
Love that. Okay. And then the final question: how to switch off when a lot of your work is on your phone?
This is a tough one, because we are very much in a society where everything's on our phone. There are some really good apps out there that you can literally lock elements of your phone down.
After a certain time, you mean?
Or you can, yeah. Or you can just lock. So I know I saw something the other day, and it was literally like, I wanted to be locked out of social media for 2 days over the weekend. So it's literally like they put a lock on those apps, and you have to go in, and you've got to go in and then put in a passcode to try and get in there. But it's that act of actually having to go and do it is taking that next step. Another thing that I would maybe recommend.
I like that. What's that app called then? Because it would be helpful for a lot of people. I mean, I've got postings on social media, but I don't like looking at it then on the weekend. But it's the draw then, isn't it? If you're a bit bored.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I will send it across to you so you can put it in the notes, so people can see. Another thing is maybe if that feels like it's too much, like it's too severe, maybe moving around the apps in your phone. Because if you know you've got that muscle memory of, you know exactly where Instagram is on your phone, don't you? Like, you think about it and you'll go on your phone and it's one swipe for me and it's in that box there on the right hand side. And I know where that is. So without me even thinking about it, I'm already in there. I'm already looking at it. And then before I know it, I've lost like half an hour.
Yeah.
So it's just reorganising the apps on your phone.
Maybe putting them in a folder. You can put things, I think, in folders, can't you? So there's a bit more steps.
Put them in a folder. Yeah, and then move that folder so you don't get used to it being there. Another thing I would maybe recommend is, if it's possible, delete the apps. If there's a time that you don't want to be on there and you want that time, you know, for yourself away from work, is delete the apps, depending on what you're using it for. If I really want to kind of feel properly disconnected, I put my phone in airplane mode. And it takes me about half an hour to an hour to, like, the panic of not being available, because there is, like, you just used to always been available to everybody, right? Like, you're always at the end of a phone, you're always there, as a text message or WhatsApp or Instagram DM. So it takes me about half an hour to an hour to, like, unwind and accept that nobody can get in contact with me, and then it's like the best feeling because nobody can contact me.
Yeah, you're free.
And it's like, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing.
It's like Desert Island, but in London.
But it is trying to, like, you know, you've got muscle memory from going and using these apps, and it just becomes second nature. So it is about trying to interrupt those patterns that we just automatically go and do, and finding a different way to go about it. And it is hard when you're kind of, because if it's a habit that you've got, you know, you wake up, the first thing you do is look on social media. That's a hard habit to break, but just kind of chipping away at it, and taking, like, baby steps rather than being like, right, I'm going to go cold turkey for 3 days. Like, it's just not going to be feasible. So how can you build in those little elements just to make it feel like you are having a bit of space away from phone, but it doesn't feel like it's like this massive gaping hole in your day, and then you don't know how to function.
Okay, brilliant. Well, these are all the questions. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for everyone that posted questions. I'll put Lindsay's contact details in the show notes. So if people want to contact her, you can. But where can people find you, connect with you, and learn more about burnout and how to prevent it?
So there is a couple of ways you can find me. Firstly, on the Investing in Women website, I am working with Liz and the team for the full year, so super excited to be on board as part of that. You can also find me on Instagram, Gold Digger Coaching, LinkedIn, Lindsey Roberts, and just find me through Investing in Women website is probably the best way to go. And all my links are in there, and you can book in a 20-minute insight call with me if you've got any questions. And yeah, happy to help with overwhelm, burnout, and kind of getting you away from that mindset and where you're thriving and feeling happy.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay, for joining us today. And thank you for everyone that's watched live and on the replay.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.